Fiona is driving the development of a creative and customer-focused culture at Australia Post. Her team have built sounds like some team members. Her team have built an internal incubator program for internal entrepreneurs to rapidly accelerate new product and business development in diverse cross-functional teams. Fiona is a psychologist with a deep interest in human behaviour, entrepreneurship, and how corporates can work with startups to solve big problems. Fiona, speaking of solving a big problem, you and a number of other people were charged with a very broad-reaching and fascinating challenge by the CEO of Australia Post. And if I can paraphrase, you were asked to find out how to make Australia Post more innovative, which sounds like a kind of a big challenge.
No,
little bit,
not at all.
A little bit. Where do you start?
Yeah, where do you start? Well, so first of all, I'd say it wasn't even our CEO so much as our customers told us that we needed to change. So we used to be known as the monopoly of delivering mail, but the thing is mail volumes hit their peak in about 2009. So since then, we've been looking for other ways to make some money because quite frankly, Australia Post is a government business enterprise, and so the money that we make, the profits, go straight back to government, which is great for our citizens of this country. So nobody wants to see this organisation fail. So that's a really important, I think, imperative for us to help it succeed. So I think the heart of actually getting this organisation to become more innovative, and we have still got a long way to go, but it's been leadership. So there's been some amazing leaders who have come in to the organisation over the years. And I'd say particularly in our digital areas, they've been amazing. We've seen some awesome people come in and bring in, methods like agile, bring in design thinking, all those sorts of things to actually start to be more customer-centred.
So they're all the newbies. Yeah. Do you think innovation and change strikes fear into the heart of some people within an organisation like Post?
Do you know, surprisingly, when you talk to your posties, when you talk to people who deliver parcels, they've been screaming out and saying, no, we need to change. Yeah. Because they see the mail volumes decline, they see the parcels, going up, but they see the change actually more rapidly than sometimes people at headquarters. So they're saying, keep our jobs, find ways to find our jobs to be more sustainable. And so there's been a bunch of work going on to try and help people move into roles that are more sustainable for them. And we're really proud of that. But it's a huge challenge, absolutely. A part of the work that we're now doing, you can see a couple of team members over there, is around intrapreneurship, and that's actually enabling people from all different parts of the business outside of your...
Okay, so first, what is intrapreneurship?
Oh, great question. Yeah, it's
a hot topic.
Buzzword, hey? It's internal entrepreneurship. So we're trying to foster our people to start to search, like a startup, search for opportunities of creation of new value. So when we think about innovation, we think about, commercialisation. It's not just people coming up with ideas, it's genuinely coming up with new commercial products and services that our customers love. So we are really trying to enable more and more people who work outside those traditional product areas to have the opportunity to contribute to that, which is a fantastic thing. So we've got one program, for example, whereby people work for 7 weeks in cross-functional teams and they are trying to solve customer problems. So we're about to go into our 5th cohort now, and that's starting to really start to see some change, I think, in terms of the culture across the business.
So in terms of driving innovation inside a business like Post, you've got a program like Intrapreneurship, which is really dealing with existing team members who are close to the business, who can maybe surface their ideas and drive the change that maybe they want to do. You've also got an accelerator program that reaches out. You've got a number of programs that reach out into the community. What's your view on, is this Post testing and learning the right way, or are they both the right way, or...
Well, we need to do a bit of everything. Yeah. So what I'm really excited about is we're doing a lot more of that outside-in thinking now. We're doing a lot more co-creation, for another buzzword, with customers. I know, we need to do. So that the role of the Australia Post Accelerate team is very much about looking at investment opportunities with startups, because we realise that some of the best inventors, some of the best disruptors out there are actually in the startup world, far more often than enterprises, because you've got that nimbleness, that ability to actually identify, and you live and die by the customer, right? So we're really aware of that, and so we've been doing a lot of work, and the APA team, led by our CIO, have been doing a ton of work in the last year. Australia Post Accelerate, sorry, have been really trying to get out there and understand the startup ecosystem. I can see some people from here tonight that we know through our partnership with the Melbourne Accelerator program through MAP. We've got a partnership with the Hub, so we've got our team often based down at the Hub in Bourke Street who are surrounded by startups. So that's a really important side of things, but it's really equally, in fact, potentially more important for us to start to instigate change from within. Because if our people don't start to see that we need to operate in different ways, that we need to be more nimble, that experimentation that you mentioned before, that experimental mindset, that empathy with customers, if we don't adopt that as a new way of working, then it doesn't matter if we maybe make acquisitions of startups in the future. What we may end up doing is killing those things, because our incumbent ways of working, quite frankly, won't gel.
So on that note, you've got a master's in organisational psychology. You have had a background and a fascination with both people and HR and the ever-evolving kind of role that plays. I don't think there's ever been a time in history where it's been so important, that lens on people and how we put them together to get results. I was curious to know, you mentioned ways of working, you mentioned kind of inside-out thinking, you're talking about cultural change. There's a lot of there's a lot of buzz around. There's a lot of buzz around. I think that's. I don't know. Whatever. There's a lot of buzz around things like holacracy. We were talking about this before. Holacracy, and here at IE we're looking at a whole range of things around teal organisations and self-management and a bunch of stuff. How important is structural change inside an organisation that's the size of Post, 50,000 plus possible employees nationwide? I think we talk maybe 6,000 in HQ over here. How important do you think structural change is to enable innovation inside the largest enterprises? So
structural, change is absolutely critical. I think about it more systemically. So ultimately, we are all humans and we are all motivated by certain things. So certainly thinking about systemic change is really important. So the way that we're incentivised or performance managed, our people leaders, the way in which they treat us each day, the extent to which we feel like we are safe to speak up. All of those things are really critical to creating that culture of innovation and creativity. Holacracy, all those sorts of things are around, and certainly there are certain advocates of those things. Personally, I'm a little bit nervous about some of those ways of working, only because I've seen some people who are very much evangelists of those ways, and I worry when people become so evangelistic about something that you cease being a little bit having healthy cynicism or some sense of critique about, hang on, is this the way we work? We're all human beings. And so I think the danger of going down a path whereby you've suddenly got your own language that can create your own in-group and out-group. So those things can be awesome if they're done well. You mentioned before when we were chatting about this, it kind of invokes tribalism and it does create winners and losers as well, doesn't it? On that note, talking about permission to experiment, Post doesn't necessarily have exactly the same pressures as a publicly listed company in terms of its visibility, but we've seen recently in the media, arguably it does. How do you... What? How do you create a culture where there's a permission to experiment and a permission to fail, particularly in and around something as big as organisational design, when you are both in the public limelight and under pressure, and literally under time pressure to actually turn the business around? So I think it's all about the scale. So if you do things in a small way, run those experiments in a really small way with less customers, for example, and you ask for permission from those customers and you're quite transparent about it, you'll be amazed at how much permission you can do to actually experiment. We've got in place now what we call risk guardrails, which actually enables a bit more freedom around innovation, because we do have some more appetite around innovation. But there are things that we need to protect, like our brand. There are, our reputation is really obviously important. So there are ways and means that we can go about that, that we're kind of instituting.
Fly below the...
I say, and even internally with the stuff we've done, honestly, like we started underground.
Yeah.
Just a small group of people, early adopters, try something, give it a go. Is it actually getting some traction? Okay, awesome. Iterate it and then tell people about it. Yeah. That's literally how we work at the moment.
We didn't talk about this, and so you may not have a view on it, but and I know there's some people from ANZ in the room here, but woo! I'm not from ANZ. Sorry. What view from the outside on the Big Bang agile transformation? What did you think?
I think
we'll take comments from the audience in a minute.
Yeah, we certainly noticed. So I think if you can pull it off, that's amazing. Go for it. There will be challenges, obviously, but I think any organisation who's embarking on such a massive shift will face into that. I presume there's a great plan in place to actually now make that happen.
Is that...
I hope.
Anyone? 9 months.
I hope that people are being looked after through that process as well. As we see with any change, there can be winners and losers. So for me, I used to work in manufacturing where it was a huge amount of change going on, and the thing I was most proud of was the extent to which we were able to look after people along the way, and they left that organisation feeling extremely proud. Yeah. So I think with any change, whether it's positive, negative, however it is for you, it's about trying to treat people with respect.
Absolutely. Speaking of respect, I wanted to touch, well, we've got 1 or 2 minutes left, on something that I know is incredibly important to you. And I want to frame this from the background of your history in working towards putting together high-performance teams. And that is your passion for diversity and inclusion in driving cultural change. I wanted to ask the question, is the real value of diversity being lost in the hyperbole of political correctness, in box-ticking exercises? Are we forgetting the fact that there's a good body of evidence that actually says diversity actually leads to greater shareholder returns, better business outcomes?
So, I mean, perhaps there are some organisations that are still seeing it as a box-ticking exercise. I think for anyone in the room who is concerned by that, you can pretty quickly tell if it is a box-ticking exercise. To me, diversity is incredibly important. Just from a personal perspective, I think it's critical that we have the best opinions in the room. We have the diversity of thought. We know that actually creates more innovative outcomes. We know that we are then less likely to suffer from things like groupthink, which can bring down organisations and governments, in fact. So you just have to look at Uber and what's happening at the moment in there. So it's really critical that we are bringing in those different perspectives into the room. So potentially there's some box ticking, but I think you can tell pretty quickly if it's not a real deal.
Yeah, I know, it does seem like that, and it's funny you mentioned the Uber piece. You've had this massive external audit, and Arianna Huffington's joined the board, and it's all going to happen, and everyone's being fired, and then I can't even remember his name, but this director comes out and makes this sexist remark, as they're talking about what they're going to do. It's like, oh man, So it does appears to be systemic, I think. Yeah,
it's unconscious bias at its best, right? So I'd ask all the men in the room, how many of you have been called bossy? Raise your hand. Hey. For the women in the room, in your life, how many times have you ever been called bossy? Yeah.
Oh my God. If you can't see, can I honestly tell you what we just saw then? One guy, who I'm definitely not talking to later on, put his hand up. Would you say 60% of the women in the audience just put their hand up?
I'd say most women. And so I've got 2 young children, 2 boys actually, but I see the girls who are absolutely running the show, like at childcare or school now, and you say, oh, they've got leadership potential, wow, and you still see the parents' looks and go, no, what do you mean? They're just bossy. Yeah. I'm stealing that a little bit from Sheryl Sandberg, actually. She spoke, I saw a talk she did a while ago, and she said she's actually done this thing around the world whereby she's made a bit of a joke, she said let's tell girls that they actually have, well, it's not a joke, I should say, tell girls that they have executive leadership potential if they think that they're being called bossy, and the audience typically laughs. And then you say, let's tell a little boy that he has leadership potential, and nobody laughs. And it's that thing, it's again that unconscious bias that we all hold, but we just have to acknowledge it. So
it's a big conversation. It's going to shape the future for generations to come. Fiona, thank you so much. We'll have a big time to pick up that again.